Hello, good morning, and welcome to the first part of what I'm going to call Random Roguelike Saturdays. This is intended to be kind of a weekly, relaxing sort of thing, of just going through just a pretty huge collection of roguelikes. This is going to be a collection of proper roguelikes, some sort of hybrid ones, and some that are technically not even roguelikes, but can essentially function the same way through the help of mods or particular rule sets. So, to start off here, this one's pretty well known. It's one of my favorites. And good lord, it's relaxing. So it's a little bit like if you think about Star Trek, if at any point the Federation had lost, and then basically you're just one ship, you're running away from what is functionally a rebel fleet. You're running into all kinds of different races along the way. All these different races function different roles in your crew. You're running into different events all over the place. And it plays a little bit like a mix between a real-time strategy game and a board game. But essentially, like most roguelikes, as soon as, well, most proper roguelikes anyway, as soon as you're dead, you're dead. If your ship gets blown up, that's it. So, yeah, as far as what makes a roguelike, as far as I'm concerned, permadeath is a big part of it. There has to be no option to go back. In some cases, a live system can work pretty well, depending on the game. And it has to be an immersive thing. Like, there has to be enough forgiveness in it to be able to make mistakes and come back from them. If it's something that's utterly unforgiving, you know, like old arcade games or whatever else, it can't be a roguelike. It's a completely different thing. The point of a roguelike is you're in a bad situation, and you have to come back from it. The redemption aspect is just huge in what makes a roguelike work. So alright, might as well actually get to this. So with all of these, I'm going to be going for the hardest difficulty, and going for what I personally view as the worst characters. You get a pretty different selection of ships here. You got a bunch of standard ships here. I get some variants on each one, so this is pretty standard here. Kind of jack of all trades kind of ship. They start out with a good amount of things. You get a selection of drone ships. You know, this is kind of like your hedged bets kind of ship. This one right here is actually my favorite. And by the way, you can actually rename them up here. But this is just my favorite just because you have your weapons and your artillery beam, and they're split into two different rooms. So you can't have both your weapons taken out by one weapon. So if you get hit, you know, get a shot, it goes through your shields, it takes out a room. You're not potentially losing all your weapons at once, you still have a backup one. So, yeah, there's a few variants on that. They all have that artillery beam in there. You've got kind of hard shield ships. These are ones that have a shield that can block anything, but only a few hits. That recharges per every fight. You've got boarding ships here. Most of these are just going to be a difference in rooms and color scheme, as well as what items are available. You got the slug ships, which are more like I would call them tricky loadouts. Don't really like those very much. You got the missile ships here for the rock crews. Your rock people are pretty much immune to fire. I'll get to that later. I'm not a fan of missile ships. Got your stealth ships, and this is the one that we're going to be using. There are others. Actually, I might as well just go ahead and show them. Let me get back my mouse. Why is it not showing the other ones? Where's my crystal cruiser? Okay, this is weird. Hang on a sec. Yeah, there we go. I don't know why they weren't showing up. So you got the Lanius Cruiser right here, and then the Crystal Cruiser right here. Those are, the Lanius one came with when they had the Advanced Edition come out. They're kind of like crystal robot sort of things. They're just basically, they eat metal. And then the Crystals are a hidden ship. Basically with each of these you have your basic one that you start with, and then you complete different achievements, and then you unlock the rest. So it's a fun game. It's got a lot of different stuff going on. Each of these come with different loadouts, different systems that they come loaded with. As far as I'm concerned, this is hands down the crappiest. Alright, so I'm gonna rename the pilot to myself. I'm gonna rename this thing the Hiver, after the Hiver from Sots. Actually, you know what? It's not a fitting name, but, there, call it the Crazen. So, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a start here. Like I mentioned, this functions kind of as a board game. When you're in this mode, it's a real-time strategy, more or less. You have your people, you move them from room to room, you got your options for your doors here. Yeah, so like if I open this one, you can see this room starts getting red, and eventually it'll start getting lines through it. That means that there's no air in there. You got your systems powering all kinds of different stuff. And yeah, you move around your power to essentially power up what you need at the time. So this is a pretty good energy loadout early on for this particular ship, which is a complete piece of crap, by the way. Unfortunately, its base name, it's named after a guy that was, as far as people go, utterly overpowered. He was a sniper that during World War II, Simo Haya. This one's called the Simo H. But the guy basically just sat in a field and protected the entire thing himself for several years. And if you ever want to read up on that story, just go look up White Death. It's not as racist as it sounds. I think the guy was Finnish or something. But yeah. Basically was just there sniping away for years, and when they interviewed him after the fact, he basically just said, well, you know, they needed me to do stuff, I just happen to be good at shooting stuff. Anyhow, moving on. Now, what sucks about this ship? Normally up here you'd have your shields. Everything comes loaded with some certain weapons. Most of your standard things are going to be lasers, beams, and missiles. So missiles go through a shield, but they have limited damage, and you're limited by how many you carry. The AI is also limited by how many they can carry. This thing doesn't come with any missile launchers, that's fine. It comes with a charged laser. It's a little bit of an awkward thing to use if you're used to auto-firing stuff. This basically charges up 2 shots, so if something has 1 shield, it'll bounce off the first shield, and while that one's recharging, the second shot can get through. Beams, when a shield is down, like this ship right now, they can just attack with impunity. They hit several rooms. Well, I can't really target my own ship here, but they basically have a certain area of effect. You put it through as many rooms as possible, and it ticks off 1 damage per each room. So they're very good, but they need shields to be down. And then really the idea is just you try to get through the other guy's defenses, you try to shut down his systems. Each of these little pips represents 1 health. Like, even when they're empty, that is 1 more damage that thing can take. You have people constantly repairing things. They get better at repairing as they go on, so there's a lot of systems in play here. But now, like I mentioned, this thing doesn't have a shield. It's a stealth ship with no stealth. And its only defensive option, it starts off with slightly better evasion, and even with everything all the way up there, having somebody piloting, having somebody in engines, which, having somebody piloting, you start out needing to have that. Later on you can upgrade your autopilot and have that be semi-functional on its own. Having somebody in engines gives you a 5% bonus at first. This goes up to 7% and 10% as they level up. So that's pretty reasonably significant when there's shots flying around all over the place. But still, that is a very tiny evasion percentage. So I won't turn this on, but they have a super shield, which is that same shield that can block anything. Problem is, this thing only picks up 1 thing every, like, 5 or so seconds. That's usually not enough. Typically you're going to be getting hit with, like, 2 or 3 damage per charge that it puts out. So you're constantly taking damage. Your whole idea is to try and tank it out, hopefully block some stuff with this piece of crap shield. And, I mean, I would just describe this thing as just a buggy ship that was picked out of the rusty end of the friggin' space graveyard, but either way, your idea is to hopefully shut down the other guy's weapons before you can do anything else, but I've gone on enough of a tangent here, so I might as well start going. This thing starts out with advanced sensors. Normally you wouldn't know what's at these locations that you're going to, so I know that there's a ship over here. I'm generally going to try to avoid fights if I can, at least early on, because if you have a regular shield plus that super shield, it's amazing by itself. It's trash. So this functions like a board game. Each of these jumps is one turn. You may encounter a fight, you may encounter, a shop or somebody boarding you, or just all sorts of events. And the idea is, hopefully you have the right kind of people to deal with that event, hopefully you have the right equipment to deal with it. It is random, there's a certain amount of RNG to this, but there's a good enough mix, there's a very good mix of events, to the point where you shouldn't have to worry about getting screwed by RNG, really. You can recover from most things. Alright, so arrived here, there's a ship harassing somebody, might as well, but can't find it. So, nothing really happens, didn't end up finding it. Sometimes you can have a worse version of that in which you just basically bumble around for a while and the fleet catches up with you. So what I'm going to try to do is I want to get as many... You usually want to get as many stops along your way before you get to the exit, because each time you move to a new sector, this map sort of thing resets, and you're in a completely different setting. It's a little bit harder. Okay, so nobody's here. And just in general, you're jumping around trying to figure out all this different stuff. He's a slug, so yeah, probably gonna attack him. Slug ships tend to be less threatening, and in some cases they even have their oxygen off to the side here, and you can just basically shut off their air and steal their ship. Either way, I'm gonna start off with the shield plus right away. They've got an ion beam here. It's kind of a shield breaker, more or less. So I'm hoping that laser will fire and not crack. Alright, so the air is disabled, this room is on fire. That's not a good time. You go here. Now here's how this works. Then I go here, and try to get 3 rooms, so yeah. 1 damage to each of their systems, and 3 damage total. So that was enough to completely shut that down. You can set this to auto-fire, which is useful with some weapons, but not a whole lot of point in that right now. Nah, don't really need missiles. Drones are basically what this runs off of, which that's nice, but I'll probably get one from this fight anyway, and 8 is not much scrap, so might as well just finish them off. Gonna re-roll the rewards for something hopefully better. Yeah, there we go. Double scrap. Now, later on, there's a possibility to pick up an item for your ship which allows you to just recover this thing so you can use it for free. The only time that it would end up getting used up is if one of the shots from the other ship ends up shooting it out of the air, or if you're in a place that has a meteor storm or something and it ends up hitting it. But right now, they're just going to cost a point each time. So $16 is not much. The cheapest upgrades available right now are for piloting and power. Oh, and drones. Though, you can make these each a little bit better, but for now it doesn't matter too much. These first priority really is just either a better weapon or some better defensive options. So it's 125 for even the basic shield system. So, ideally, we'll be setting up that as early as possible. If you jump into these blue ones, this actually slows down their progress over here, so they're moving much slower than usual. But right now, like I said, I'm just hoping... That was a terrible deal. So they want 3 fuel, which you need 1 of these for each jump. But they're only going to pay 1 drone part for that 3 fuel, and drone parts are worth less than fuel in general. Alright, so yeah, shields. 125. That's awful. Oh, actually, here's one thing that I forgot to mention. And I'm going to sell this anti-drone. Actually no, it might help. Can I get something better? I'd like to get at least something. An anti-personnel drone would be fantastic, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of the scanners, I'm going to get rid of that, get an anti-personnel drone. And that will basically allow for boarding things without having a teleporter. It'll just send out a robot to go wreak havoc on the other guys, and a lot of these early ships are trash. I can get more resources out of them. But yeah, what I forgot to mention earlier, this right here, so this is a clone bay. Most of the other ships come with a med bay, you put your people in there, they heal. A clone bay gives you a little tiny heal every time that you do a jump, but then if somebody dies, it brings them back in relatively the same shape. I say relatively because they come back a little bit brain damaged, their skills are worse. Oh, okay, this usually ends up damaging you for an exchange of stuff, but I ended up getting some resources for free. Oh, that's nice. I'm gonna try to go here, here, and then we'll see where it is. Sometimes it seems to go a little bit farther, but I would like to go here and then here. They've got both a missile and plasma. That looks like a small missile, I think. No, I think that's an Artemis. In that case, gonna go shield for this one. If they've got a very small missile, so you've got Lido, which are the ones that end up charging super quick. Oh yeah, in this case. Oh, oops. Let's go. The first personnel, then. Oh crap, I bought the wrong one. Oh crap. Well, I screwed that up entirely. So what I meant to buy was a boarding drone. Unfortunately, what I bought was a defense drone. It has been a little minute, actually. Sometimes I do forget which one's which. Alright, so engines are completely boned for now. The air needs to return that room, so I'm gonna have this guy go fix the clone bay. The weapons are shut down for now anyway. And yeah, this music, though. So pretty good. I don't know, the ultimate in relaxing roguelike as far as I'm concerned. Just makes me happy in the soul. Alright. This is why you want to do these aid ones sometimes, so I get this stuff from blowing up these guys. I get a free guy and some more resources from the other one. Guys, why don't we take over on engines? Or at least go assist with them. Because I can't afford to be losing those right now. Well, at least the nice thing about having this drone, I don't have to worry about upgrading the doors too much. Doors allow you to keep... Like, if anyone boards you, they'll just jump in a random room. Thankfully, the AI is not very tactically smart, otherwise this game would be nigh impossible. But, yeah, you can lock them into certain rooms, take the air out of them, have a robot go fight them so they're suffocating and fighting this friggin' death bot at the same time. You can do some pretty mean stuff to different folks. Alright. So this is one of the advanced edition things. It's essentially a pulse that disables stuff over and over. Hopefully it disables their weapons. Because if not, I'm gonna have to run away because that beam is freaking scary. Fire the beam first. Oh crap. Okay, good. It missed. That thing can carve straight through the shields, and the weapons are upgraded. Fantastic. Thankfully it did kill off their shield. So that's nice, I suppose, but still waiting for everything to come back. And my shield's gone. Fire that. Yeah, luckily it does cut both ways, so it ends up taking stuff out. Well, relatively conveniently. Now, I would think they only have enough power to barely power all these, so this should disable their laser. Another thing to start damaging their shields. Okay, that disabled their shields. Good, so they're getting completely carved up now. Got some more damage on that. And this should be last fall. Unless they bring their shields back online, which is unlikely. There we go. And can't jump at the moment, because the cockpit got disabled. Alright, back online. Yeah, so there's gonna be enough space to do a jump to that exit. It's gonna try to run away. This is when I'm wishing that I had kept that anti-beam drone. They came back just on time. Unfortunately, I had to take a little bit of an emergency shot there. We can card these down. Perfect. Dead. Hopefully you can kind of tell why this ship is crap. Essentially saving up for an expensive system becomes standard on everything else. Crappy weapons start off... it's kind of a bad trade, because the main item that they get, this super shield, its cost is 60. A lot of stores carry it. Like, it's, at worst, semi-uncommon. This doesn't look like it has drones. Crap. This is worse than the last one. In that case, gonna shut off the air system. It's more... evasion's not gonna matter because you can't actually dodge lasers. But yeah, so it comes off with terrible weapons, comes off with terrible systems in general. That's not good. Phone bay's on fire also. Everything's going completely to crap. I was hoping that would shut him down, but no, that's it. He's dead. What a terrible ship. So there you go. That's FTL. It's a really fun game. Cannot recommend this enough. I mean, the music is amazing. The gameplay of it is amazing. I could play this all day. Let's see how this did. Though for this crap. Apparently didn't even make it on the list. And these are all the achievements and stuff you can get. This achievement, by the way, I think is burned. Burned? It's broken, I think. I've actually seemingly got this to work, and I don't know if it needs every single tile. It has to be on fire. I mean, it says every square. I assume them in every room. But, it's kind of neat to achieve. And it's one of those ones that's kind of rare. Yeah, could have gone better, but really hardest difficulty with the SH, it's not going to get very far. So yeah, Sector 6 is probably the farthest I've ever gotten on hard mode with this thing. And there's 8 sectors plus the last stage, so technically 9. But yeah, there you go. I'm going to get another one for next week.